afternoon. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Ask PQ on Bloomberg Quint Live. I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza.
And I'm Alex Matthew. And if you've got questions on equity, this is the place to ask them, and you can send them in to us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp, or you can call us on 022-4540-4141. You can also mail us at askpq@bloombergquint.com. Just make sure to add the AskPQ hashtag.
Okay, before we get to the individual queries on the show today, let's tell you how the markets are faring after a week end to the June series yesterday. We're definitely having a positive start for today, one of the July series, and strong gains actually. Nifty is now up nearly 100 points in trade. It's also inching very closer to its 50 DMA, which is somewhere about 10,689. So that's a positive sign. Sensex also trading with gains of 290 points. We'll pull up the bank Nifty and also the broader market. Let's see how they are panning out. Broader markets definitely taking some bit of a breather in today's session after the kind of carnage that we've seen. Mid-cap index up 1% in trade. Small-cap index also seeing good gains of nearly closer to 2%. Let's look at the Nifty contributors list and see which are the stocks which are contributing to the gains that we are seeing. So top on the list is your biggie Reliance Industries. That's a heavyweight. Remember, L&T did not perform well in June series. The stock was down nearly 10%. So that's bounced back on day one. ITC, ICICI Bank, all these heavyweights are trading in the positive territory. What's capping the moves on the upside then? HDFC Bank with 10% weightage on Nifty is trading in the negative territory. IndusInd Bank, M&M Tech Mahindra, a couple of other counters which are not doing that well. In terms of market breadth, the broader markets definitely seems to have bounced back in today's session, but will it sustain or not? That remains to be answered. But definitely after a lot of trading sessions, the market breadth is looking pretty good on the screen right now. It's 4:1 in favor of the advances. I just want to point out a few gainers from the broader market, something like Shivam Auto, that's gaining in today's session, and also alongside Shivam Auto with gains of 15%. You've got Arshia Limited. We'll be chatting with the management of Arshia, in fact, for our countdown show, which starts at 2 p.m. So do tune in for that. MK Global also sitting with gains of nearly 11%. Sharp cuts have been seen for Jain Irrigation. That's your top F&O loser for the day. So that's down nearly 2.5%. And stocks like Dilip Bilcon and Quality continue to be locked in lower circuit. I just want to pull up the turnover and see, because usually on day one we don't see much of participation. It's the day one of new series, so the turnover is just about okayish right now. The total turnover which have been clocked in now, it's close to 2.5 lakh crore, Alex.
All right, it's the end of the week, and as always, I think like every other day in Mumbai, the traffic is extremely unpredictable, so you can sometimes expect to be late for a meeting. One of our guests is still on his way to the studio, but we have one with us. It was on time, in fact, because you were on the previous show as well, Sharmila, so that you have the advantage on Aditya. But Sharmila Joshi is an independent investment advisor. She's going to take a few of your queries, and very soon we'll be joined by Aditya Agarwala, who's from Yes Securities, and he'll answer all your short-term queries. I'm going to start with some of the queries that are already on social media. Thank you so much for writing in and for joining us on this conversation. I'm going to start with an interesting query, Sharmila. We've got Ramesh M, who's planning to start a monthly equity SIP on his own, and he's asking for 3 large cap stocks that have the potential to grow, and he wants a few recommendations from you.
Great. So I think it's a great idea to do sort of an SIP, and if you stick to large caps, it's safer than being in some mid caps. But of course, I think then you lose out on some of the beta play that you get when you're in a mid cap. That said, I think let's go with some Nifty stocks. Why look outside the Nifty? We can try and find some value there. I think one obvious area of value at this point in time seems to suggest itself to be pharma, because we are seeing some recovery there, and the news flow is turning positive. So go with any of the sort of a stock like a Sun Pharma or a Lupin or even a Dr. Reddy, I think. And hopefully the next couple of years will play out well for pharma. Then I think, let's go with one safe name. Where you are sort of guaranteed a certain rate of growth. I think the name that immediately comes to mind is HDFC Bank. So go with a banking name, and I think HDFC Bank to my mind is the safest bank, because every quarter we have that 18-20% kind of a return, profitability and EBITDA growth from the stock. So I think HDFC Bank is a very safe stock to go with. And I think with the third stock, again, I'd go with a slightly more risky play. So I think it should be from either from the metals or the infra play. So I think you can go with a Tata Steel or you can go with a Larsen. So be a little brave, and since hopefully you're long term, you'll see some gains from current levels.
Okay.
That's pretty much balanced, Sharmila. You've chosen defensive from the pharma pack, you've chosen Tata Steel from the metals pack, and also HDFC Bank, which continues to do well. And remember, that's your heavyweight on the index as well. But since we're on the topic of banking, you recommended HDFC Bank on Facebook. Shivansh Nagpal is asking if this is a good opportunity to enter into any of the PSU banks. We know the valuations have corrected, the prices have come off substantially. You know what? The latest biannual financial stability report of RBI stated that the GNPAs will further rise by end of FY19.
12.2%.
Yes. So do you think one
So
can
my
take
heart sank a little when you said PSU banks, because I was hoping I'd be able to roll with an HDFC Bank or an IndusInd Bank
So
or
this is
something.
specifically PSU
Yes.
banks.
So I think it's very clear from the way valuations are hitting you in your face just now that in terms of valuation, everything looks very mouth-wateringly sort of cheap. But that comes with a price, because
True.
you'll have to
And bigger risk.
Yes. So if you want to be risky, then go and buy a Bank of Baroda, or if you want to be riskier, then buy something like a PNB or something. But if you want to be on the safer side, then I think go with SBI.
Okay, so we've talked about banking. Let's continue that conversation just a little bit, because our first question, Shiva Kumar on YouTube asked what the best price is to buy ICICI Bank and Tata Steel. You've already spoken about Tata Steel. You said it's a good idea in the metals pack for the long term. ICICI Bank, based on the recent developments that we've had with regard to the fact that Chanda Kochhar is on leave, there's a bit of a flux with regard to the leadership, the changes that are happening in the board. How do you see all of that? Do you think that it's the right time to get into ICICI Bank for the long term?
Well, from a valuation perspective, certainly. But I think, why don't we just wait? We have a new management in place. Let's just see, whether they really walk the talk, and then take a call from there. What's the hurry? Because the stock was at 300, and 300 seemed like a challenge to sort of hold. And then we've seen it correct to 270. And today, maybe I think we are seeing a little bit of a up move because of this news about Mr. Girish Chaturvedi being appointed as a sort of a temporary chairperson. So I think let's just wait on this a little. Let's just see what the new management does, and then take a call on that, because I think and really where this whole this move of questioning and whatever fact finding is going to take us to, and I think then take a call from there.
Okay, that's the call on ICICI Bank. The stock is in focus after the new chairman name cropped up today of Mr. Girish Chaturvedi. Let's take some more queries, and this one comes from Arvind Mohan Gupta, who writes to us on YouTube. He's asking, can I buy Bhushan Steel? Arvind, I don't know why you want to look at Bhushan Steel. There are a lot of companies out there, but still I'll take your question to the expert here. Sharmila, Bhushan Steel, is any equity value left in the company?
So that's the troubling part, because you don't know at the end of all this, after whatever deal is arrived at, what price it happens, and then, what is really left for somebody buying it at this current price of 31. We really don't know.
The existing shareholders have lost a lot. The stock was, I remember, somewhere between 80, 90, and now it's come off to 30.
No, I remember the stock even at 400.
Yeah.
So let's not even go there.
That's 2 years back or something.
So let's not even go there. But the point being that as on date, precisely as you said, that if there is so much uncertainty, there is better play out there. I mean, we've spoken of Tata Steel. You can look at a Hindalco. You can look at a JSW Steel. I think Jindal Steel even. So I think why look at Bhushan Steel unless you really are up to lose whatever you invest.
True.
Then you can go ahead.
In the spirit of what we've spoken about so far, we've got a lot of interesting queries in that a lot of people are thinking of investing through the SIP route, which a lot of people have spoken about in the mutual fund industry as well. It's interesting that a lot of retail players are thinking of this strategy. But speaking of which, Vivek Kanodia is holding currently DMart at 1,212 and CDSL at 321. He's advising which one he should add in the SIP format. And both, he's saying, obviously, he's seen a little correction. Let's pull up the charts and see where they've moved. But what would you recommend with regard to that? Would you recommend an SIP for these two?
I find Avenue Supermarkets a little tad expensive.
Okay.
So, I mean, unless it corrects from here, then I think you could look at an SIP. But otherwise, at current levels, I find it a little expensive. And CDSL also, it is really a one-trick pony sort of. There's one business, and sure, I mean, you can argue that it's an oligopoly in a sense, but I don't know. So I would really not very honestly advise an SIP neither. Hold definitely what you have, but I don't think look to add further unless the stock substantially corrects.
Okay, that's a view on CDSL coming by, and also on Avenue Supermarts, which has been trading at higher valuations. That goes without saying. But let's move on. I think we've got a caller online from Kota. Shama calls us. Hi, Shama. Good afternoon. Thanks a ton for calling us today. Tell us what's your query on.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Yes, actually, I've bought Bajaj Finserv today in the morning at 5915. So I'd like to find out whether I can hold it.
All right. Shama, what's your time horizon?
1 week.
1 week. Okay, so it's a short-term call. Basically, it's a trading call, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, we don't have Aditya here, but nevertheless, I'll take your query to Sharmila. Sharmila, Bajaj Finserv, Bajaj Finance, these are stocks which have been performing well. It's a short-term trade here, but overall, what's the view on Bajaj Finserv?
My difficulty is that it's a short-term trade. Otherwise, I'd say it's a hold without.
So for long-term, one can look to hold,
Absolutely.
Right?
But I think even in the short term, it might bounce a little. Let's wait till Monday, because today's market seems to indicate that we are ready to put June woes behind us, at least as far as a lot of these mid-cap stocks are concerned. So if that is indeed the case, then maybe you will see, the good stocks sort of recovering faster.
And it's a good pedigree stock with markets bouncing. Maybe you can get a better price for exit.
So I think, but what I would recommend all traders is that they have a stop loss in place.
Sure, yeah, that's a very good advice.
All right, Saurabh Patak on YouTube is asking about Mahindra CIE. He's bought at an average rate of 235. Let's pull up the stock. It's 254 right now, so he is making a bit of a profit there. It's about 3.6% higher in trade today as well. So it is a stock that is buzzing in trade today. He's asking if we should book profits at this stage, Sharmila, or should he move to another stock, or should he keep holding Mahindra CIE?
Well, all indications seem to be that this is a stock which is slowly beginning to get noticed, sort of, for many, I mean, I don't know after how long I'm really hearing this stock getting recommended or spoken about. So I think to me, it's a hold. I think that you should be a little patient, keep a 9 to 12 month kind of a perspective and hold the stock.
No, because some of those acquisitions that they made early on did not really pan out for them in terms of the business strategy and all of that. But
Yes. But I think the pedigree of the stock, the management, the overall space that the stock is in, and sometimes these things take a little longer to consolidate into their businesses. But as I'm saying, I think that of late I've heard more positive than negative things about Mahindra CIE. So I think it makes sense to continue to hold the stock.
Okay, hold on to Mahindra CIE. The stock's also doing well. It's up. In fact, it had a gap up opening. I remember in the morning session it was up 8 to 9%, but it's cooled off from those opening levels. Let's move on and take Arvind Mohan Gupta's query. I think he wants some view on Uniply Industry. Just to remind our viewers, yesterday there was a bull deal where Arvind Khattar bought 8 lakh shares. That's 2.8% stake in the company, and Premier Investment Fund had sold almost 8 lakh shares. Sharmila, if you try Uniply, what's the fundamental rationale there? If would you advise somebody to buy into a stock like this?
I wouldn't recommend a fresh purchase at this price. If you have it, you hold it. But I think from a valuation perspective, it's looking a little expensive. So I would say that if you have it, then definitely hold the stock. But if you don't have it, then I wouldn't recommend it at this price.
Okay, we've got a question on YouTube about HDFC Standard Life. The question from Bharat Kangwani is whether you can pick up HDFC Standard Life for the long term. These are interesting plays, and clearly there's a lot of running space or leg room to go for these insurance companies, especially life insurance players in India. Would you recommend buying?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you can sort of time it a little better, and if you see a little bit of a correction, try and get in at that price. Perhaps from a valuation perspective, Pru Life appears a little cheaper than HDFC Standard Life, but definitely I think the kind of market share HDFC Standard Life has managed to get for itself is commendable. So it's and precisely, I think, at one point in time in the insurance space, you only had LIC, then came in all the private insurance players, and they've managed to grab quite a bit of the market. Because they really made that effort to go out there and get new products introduced, and sort of use ride on the back of their banking presence and push out more products. So I think life insurance is a very interesting play to be in, especially as you're saying, it's got lot more legs. So yes, I think he can look at HDFC Standard Life definitely. It's a tad expensive just now, so try and buy it cheaper.
Okay, so you can look at HDFC Life, and Sharmila likes the life insurance space, and I think we've got Aditya Agarwala with us. So glad that you could make it, Aditya. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine.
We've made excuses on your behalf, so we'll go straight to your questions.
Sure.
Were you stuck in traffic?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to move on to the next query on KNR Construction. Bharat Bhushan on YouTube writes to us. He's bought 12,000 shares at an average price of 250, and he does have a long-term view. Aditya, wait. I'm just going to take this query once again to Sharmila. He's asking what to do. Sharmila, the shares have corrected. I think his buy price is 250. It's come off to 215 levels, but he does have a long-term view. What would you advise him to do? On year-to-date basis, the stock's corrected over 30%.
See, what I feel is that this year could prove to be a good year for, companies in the infra and sort of road building and construction sort of related play. Simply because I think it's election year and you will see a lot more orders going out this year, because that's a very visible part of when you start getting closer to elections. So I think for the moment, for me, the stock is a hold. So, and valuation wise also it looks okay, so I would continue to hold the stock. I think without doubt all mid caps have corrected very brutally in this month of June. So I think wait and see if this is sort of wait for a week more at least, see if this is a bottom and this selling doesn't further sort of get you don't sell further into these stocks and then take a call.
All right. Let's now get the barrage of questions that we have on short term to Aditya, who is here. He's pulled out his laptop. We've got a question from Manikant on YouTube. 700 shares of SBI is what he purchased intraday, 272.7. He's asking what his selling point should be. Let's pull up the chart. It's currently trading at 261.
Okay.
So let's see what.
So is the buying price at 271 because
does that not match your
no,
chart?
So the high today is 263.45.
Okay, so I think he must mean 262.7.
Okay. Cool, no problem. So I would recommend hold on to the stock. These stocks are bouncing back. So stock took support at 89 period moving average yesterday, and today's stock has bounced back. So hold on to the stock. Keep a stop at today's low, which is close to about 258. And I'm looking at a target of 270 to about 275 on the upside. If it's a pure intraday trade, then for me the target will be 265.
Okay, for intraday, 265 is the target on State Bank of India. On Facebook, Siddharth Badrinath writes to us, and he wants a short-term view on stocks like Biocon and Cadila. Aditya, on the charts, would you suggest Siddharth to take any position on any of these stocks, Biocon or Cadila?
Okay. So first, I'm taking a look at the Biocon stock is weak in trade today, following up from yesterday's breakdown from the 20-period moving average. So I would stay away from Biocon. Stock is looking weak to me at current levels. I'm looking at a target of 590 to about 580 on the downside. I will position myself as a short trader, not as a long trader in Biocon at current levels. So no long trades, rather a short trade, keeping a stop at 620 for a downside target of 580 to about 570.
Okay, we started the show on banking and we've got several questions on them. I'm going to take another. Sanjeev Kumar has bought a significant number of shares of Federal Bank, 20,000 shares at an average rate of 90 for the long term. He's asking what his strategy should be.
Oh, well, I would have really honestly wanted to skip this one because, really speaking, there is not much to, because, in that space, there are many stocks now which are sort of trading at similar valuations with little to choose between them. And plus, Federal Bank becomes a more sort of in terms of even the spread, etc., that the regions it's present in. So, if you had to, I think, pick a stock now from a valuation perspective to take a exposure to, try and find a stock with a more pan-India sort of a presence.
So it's currently not too far from his buy price. It's currently trading at 80.75. If there are any recoveries, would you suggest migration to something else? Say an IndusInd Bank or an...
Yeah, I think even an SBI to my mind makes more sense than staying with Federal.
Okay, so a lot of...
Probably an RBL Bank.
Okay.
That's been your favorite
Yes.
for a very long time. Okay, on Facebook, Jim Matthew writes to us. He's asking if this is the right level to enter into Madhukan projects. Remember, the stock's up in today's session. I guess it's trading with gains of 7 to 8%, but it's not had a good week. On just 2 days back, the stock had corrected nearly 8 to 9%, and even on year-to-date basis, if you could just pull up the one-year chart, obviously this is this week's chart, it's down 7%, but on year-to-date basis, it's corrected 70%. Qualifies to be called a penny stock, but what would you suggest, Aditya? Worth
Exit.
taking a bet?
No,
No,
not
he
at
wants to take a fresh bet at
No,
current levels.
not at all.
Okay.
Stay away from the stock. Don't even consider it as a stock to be taken a bet on.
Okay.
All right, Sharmila, you did speak about steel and metals, and you picked Tata Steel, but we've got Advait Supnekar, who's writing in on YouTube. He wants to build a basket of steel stocks for the long term, and he's chosen Prakash, he's chosen GSPL, and he's chosen Sunflag. Can you help me with that?
Iron.
Sure.
Okay, I haven't. No, I'm not familiar. So if you're
Yeah.
familiar, can you help out the viewer in
It's
in
Sunflag
choosing?
Iron and Steel.
Okay, yeah. But no, can you give him recommendations?
Well, I don't really have a view on Sunflag and Prakash, so I would say JSPL looks fine to me.
Okay.
I would possibly add 2 other stocks then in that space. I'd go with one from the aluminium space, not steel space. So I'd go with Hindalco.
Okay.
At current price, I think there's a great case to be made for Hindalco, for aluminium as a metal going ahead. And Hindalco's been doing reasonably well, so I'd look at a Hindalco. And then I think for the third stock, if you don't want to do a large player like a Tata Steel, then look at a JSW Steel.
Okay.
Or even that Jindal Steel, Hisar or whatever. But you know, they just come, they're all from the same family, so I'm a little reluctant to go with that. But otherwise, yes, JSPL is fine, I think.
Okay, and the metals pack in today's session has been performing really well. The Nifty Metals Index is one of the top sectoral gainers. The next question from Vijay Kumar on Facebook is on Dilip Bilcon, and I'm very curious to discuss this, Sharmila. The stock's been locked in lower circuit. It was, it had given really good returns. I remember it's touched those levels of 1300 or 1400. The brokerages have, maintained their buy rating on this one. It's under the ASM, and post that only the stock started correcting. And earlier there were some issues or rumors regarding the balance sheet of the company, and the management categorically has denied those rumors. What should one do if somebody is bought Dilip Bilcon, say northwards of 1000 or 1100, or do you think at current levels can it be a good bet?
So these are all the painful areas for the market. But I think to just go back to when we were talking of KNR, I think Dilip Bilcon is in the same space. So from that point of view, I think it's a decent space to be in, going ahead, because you're talking of road construction, etc. The trouble is all these other things, So I think you have to wait and see where this ASM overhang settles for a lot of these stocks. And also really if any further clarity emerges from the management in terms of, the other issues. Because post that clarification also, I don't think markets bought too much into it, So I think you need to just I think today also, I think even in today's trade, it's only sellers, right?
Yeah.
So I think you need to wait for this normal trading to sort of resume before you really take a call on the stock. But at the same time, I don't think it's fair to really panic and say that it's a sell at any price.
So you would wait for the circuit to open and then take a call?
Yes.
Okay,
and then just let the dust settle on this. What is it that's actually, let maybe this ASM sort of issue get out of the way.
Okay, I think Ronak Gandhi also had a query on Dilip Bilcon on YouTube. I hope that's Sharmila has managed to answer that query for you.
No, speaking about another stock that has actually taken a bit of a beating, PTC India. It's touched a 52-week low in today's session as well. We've got a viewer who has bought PTC India at around 90 levels. If I can't seem to find exactly where it is, but anyway, so we've got a viewer who's bought at around 90 levels. He's asking what his strategy should be going forward. Should he average 92? I got it. 400 shares at 92. Should he average or book losses at this point?
So honestly, if the gentleman can book losses, I would recommend him to book losses because stock is significantly down from his buying price. And from what I look at the charts, stock continues to make lower highs and lower lows. So that's not a healthy sign for a stock to stay invested into. So my recommendation would be exit from the stock and get into stocks which are uptrending rather than a downtrending one.
Abhinav Sinha, I hope that answers your question.
Okay, that's on PTC. Let's move on and take a query on NMDC. Ujjwal Kumar on YouTube wants to know if he can enter NMDC at current levels. Aditya, I'll come to you. How are the charts looking? Do you think this is the right level to enter?
So stock has minor support close to about 102 levels, but I'm not too sure whether that support will hold because charts are weak, the momentum oscillators are weak. Everything is pointing towards lower levels, even from current levels of 105. So 100. I would not recommend going long on NMDC. Rather, Sharmila pointed out few couple names which look better in the space. Probably Hindalco is a better bet.
Okay.
JSW Steel is a better bet. So I would recommend him, advise him to look at JSW Steel or Hindalco rather than NMDC at current levels.
Sharmila, from a long-term view, do you like NMDC?
See, I think the problem with NMDC for me is the fact that, these government-regulated stocks are often hit by some news about pricing of ores, etc. And ban of mining. Why enter into that space? It's an attractive space to be in, unless you're looking at it from a dividend yield kind of a perspective. Like that's one of the reasons why people like Coal India, for instance, because the dividend yield is so great.
Right.
So if that's your game, then that's different. But if you're really looking for price appreciation, then I would go with the pure metal play.
Okay. All right, I think we're running out of time. I would like to thank all our viewers for writing in their queries to us. And thanks very much, Aditya and Sharmila, for joining us today and helping our viewers with their queries. Well, that's all that we have on this edition of Ask BQ.
Here's hoping that your weekend is absolutely fantastic and that you miss all the traffic snarls that may just crop up if you're staying in Mumbai. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us on this edition. If you want to address or you want to view any of the answers to the questions that were asked today, you can log on to the website bloombergquint.com and search for the hashtag AskBQ, and you can check them out. Up next on Bloomberg Quint is Power Lunch.